Okay, now we'll see the details of working of a centrifugal compressor. So the main or basic thing which everyone should remember is that in a centrifugal compressor, we have an axial entry and a radial outlet. These are the only differentiating things in any type of machine or any fluid machines. Where is the entry, or how is the entry happening, and how is the outlet? And then we what we have is we have a impeller are same as blades or whatever you have seen in turbines. And one thing is, we if we want to increase the centrifugal action, we need to increase the diameter of the impeller. So if we increase the diameter, the length of the blades from the center will increase. Since the length is increasing, the overall area change from the inlet to outlet will increase, and that change in area will give higher actions of centrifugation. So a basic diagram which or schematic you should remember is, here is the entry and here is the outlet, and here in this section we have the impeller blade. So what how they look like are shown over here. You have seen this earlier also. So what is the process of compression actually? So we'll see over here. Now there could be two kinds of processes which can be there. So compression by default cannot have a change in will must have a change in pressure. That's the whole idea of having a compression. So we have a change in pressure. So there are two different things, and since the pressure is changing, we are also changing the velocity volume of the fluid. So there are two different things left. Either we can have an isothermal process, or we can have an isoentropic process. The third kind of process which is left is polytropic process. We'll look at polytropic process also, but that is not an easy task to visualize a polytropic process. So we'll check which are the most easiest thing to visualize how a compression process would look like. So we can have an isothermal process where the change in temperature should be zero. So we have earlier seen that in a compression process, we'll actually have a rise in temperature. So if we don't want the actual rise in temperature, we can have some arrangement, external arrangement, which has a circulating fluid, a cold circulating fluid, and that cold circulating fluid will maintain the temperature of the actual fluid which is being compressed to the actual temperature. That is the initial temperature. It will not let the temperature of the fluid or the working fluid rise. And then we can have an isoentropic process in which the temperature is going to increase, but an isoentropic process in concept will mean that it is a very fast process. So we know that compression is actually a very fast process. Anywhere we see the compressors, we know that the reciprocating motion which are generally seen in outside world, they are very fast. So an isoentropic process is also very fast. So we can start thinking that okay, compression is going to be an isoentropic process where we will have a rise in temperature. So we can also write that delta T, that is final temperature minus initial temperature, is going to be actually greater than zero. And this is the more realistic case, whereas the case of isothermal compression are not realistic. They'll take a lot of time for compression because we are going to cool down the fluid as it is being compressed. So ideal process for compression is isothermal actually, because that will give the largest pressure rise inside the fluid. That is because we whatever work we are providing, we want that work only to go in the rise of pressure and not temperature. So isothermal process are actually not changing temperature. That means that whatever work we have provided will go in the change in pressure or the rise in pressure. But we should also take into consideration that to not let the temperature rise, we need a external fluid, circulating fluid, or and a cold fluid to maintain that temperature. So actually in realistic, this is not going to be a very good process. We need to apply some external work to keep the temperature of the fluid maintained. So here with isothermal, we'll have least work, but then we have isothermal, so we need external work to maintain that temperature. While it is difficult to execute a isothermal compression, and the compression action is very fast. in reality. So there is no time to have heat transfer. So that is, in reality, we have isoentropic compression. You must remember, in reality, we have isoentropic compression, which are lower efficient compression process than isothermal processes of compression. And let's recall one very important concept. We had a Brayton cycle earlier in turbines, where air was used as a working fluid to extract energy of a fluid or a fluid in a combustion chamber. So over there, we have an expansion process, and then we were reheating it and compressing. So over here, in the expansion process, we were reheating the fluid, and after expansion, during the compression process, we were intercooling. So this is a compression process. This is an intercooling process. This is again a compression process. So if we have infinite number of intercooling and compression process, so we make a very small change, rise in pressure, then we again intercool it, then we again rise the pressure. So in that way, if we have infinite intercoolers, we'll have a straight line. That is an isothermal. So this is a TS chart. Sorry, this is a TS chart. This is a TS chart. This is a TS chart. So we can see that the temperature is not going to change if we have so many intercoolers. So, but this is going to take a lot of time, because we need to pass it into a compressor, then intercooler, then compressor, then intercooler, then compressor. So it is not a realistic process. So now let's come to very basic thing, where actually the world is progressing towards. How would we manufacture the centrifugal blades, that is the impeller blades. So the best thing is CNC machining. Someone who thinks of casting was used earlier, but as of now, casting is not going to be used, because casting will not give very good surface finish. The product is not having as much material properties retained, because of it being once melted completely and then again cooled. So we don't know how the grains are formed and what is the internal stress, residual stress. So the best thing is CNC machining. And later we are going to see how the design process will happen, or we'll do calculations to figure out what is the pressure ratio, or given a pressure ratio, what should be the efficiency. But these are very much simplistic there are so many assumptions and very simplistic model we are assuming over there. But for reality, we use numerical solutions or numerical softwares, where there are iterative processes happening, and we'll then figure out what is the output parameters depending on the different input parameters. So in a centrifugal compressor, there can be 3 different types of blades, which are backward blades, radial blades, and forward facing blades. So what's the difference is, if we have, let's assume this is the internal and this is the external. So, and let's assume they are rotating in this direction. And from here to here, let's assume this is the perpendicular to both of the circles. This is the inner circle and that is the outer circle. The fluid is going to enter from here at the center, and it is going to leave radially outwards. So for a backward facing blade, it is rotating in this direction. That is very important. So in a backward facing blade, the blades look something like this. So it may enter anyway, but the exit velocity is, this is the normal to the surface. So the exit velocity is backward in opposite direction to the motion of blade. In radial blade, the velocity is exactly radially outwards. So these are radial blades. And in forward facing blades, the blades are turned in that direction. So the exit velocity will be somewhere in this direction. That is in the direction of the rotation. In backward facing blade, the exit velocity is in the opposite direction to the rotation. So backward blades are most commonly used because they have self-limiting characteristics. So we'll see what is the self-limiting characteristic. But for GIST, self-limiting characteristic is very useful for working at part loads. So where we have a design load, somewhere. Let's assume this is volume flow rate. So this is a designed volume flow rate at which my compressor should work. Or this is a pressure ratio. So this is a designed pressure ratio. But at all times, it may not happen that we are working at designed pressure ratio. We may work at higher flow rate, or we may work at lower flow rate. So the backward blades have the property that if we are at off design points, if we are working at off design points, they still maintain their efficiency, while the radial blades and the forward facing blades have a very low efficiencies when they are working at off design points. But radial blades are very useful when we have higher pressure ratio, and since they are radial blades, there are very low centrifugal stress, and low centrifugal stress means low bending stress also. And since the stress are less, we can run them at higher speeds. And in forward facing blades, we use them with space constraints, because in smaller size they can give high pressure ratio. In small size they can give high pressure ratio, and because we have space constraint, then only we should use high pressure forward facing blades. Otherwise we'll have a very low efficiency of working. So the forward facing blades are least recommended. And what are the main parts in a centrifugal compressor? So we have, in any fluid machine, we have three main parts. One which is the casing, another which is the impeller, and third which is the diffuser. Diffuser is an optional part. The casing itself can act as a diffuser. But over here in a centrifugal compressor, we have some important terminologies that are impellers. In the impeller, we'll have a root diameter and a tip diameter. So So over here you can see that how is the constructional features of a centrifugal compressor. This was the view we were looking at before. So this is the front view and this is the side view. From here the fluid enters. So the terminologies over here are very important. First terminology is I tip diameter. The second terminology is I root diameter. The third terminology will be hub diameter. The casing's external diameter is the hub diameter. And then the last one is the impeller tip diameter. So this is how the impeller is looking. Sorry, this hedge section is the impeller. So this point is the impeller tip diameter. And there can be multiple types of speed which are defined. So the speed can be defined with respect to root diameter. It can be defined with respect to I tip diameter. There can be a mean speed, impeller mean speed, and then there could be impeller tip speed. So there are different types of speeds over there defined. So they are defined with respect to different diameters. Well, the speed of the blades is pi dn. So we know U is pi d n by 60, where d should be in meters and n should be in rpm. N is rpm. Okay. So when there is some rotation, the rpm is going to be constant at all points, over here, over here, over here, or at the tip. So the rpm is going to be constant. So what's difference is the diameter. So diameter is going to vary when we move from the entry point to the exit point. So as per the different diameter sections, we'll have different speeds. So at the tip, we'll have the highest speed. At the mean diameter, we'll have some different speed. At the entry, we'll have some different speed. So that's the difference you should remember while solving problems, because in problems, there are explicitly defined that this is the mean speed, this is the tip speed, and so on. This is another figure where the constructional features are shown. So this is the side view and this is the front view. And over here, the blades are said as radial blade impeller because the exit blades, they can be seen, they are exactly perpendicular to the outlet angle. And these are the diffuser section. So I said the diffuser vanes are optional. So over here, there are diffuser vanes. So what will they do? They'll convert the high velocity of the exit to high pressure. They'll change the dynamic head to the static head of the pressure. And we can see that the area is going to increase. So the increasing area will reduce the velocity. So you just think like this. You use first you use the mass flow rate equation, constant mass flow rate equation, and then later you need to use the Bernoulli's equation. So first, since the area is going to increase, we'll see increase in area. That means the velocity should reduce, and then coming to Bernoulli's equation, reducing velocity, that is reducing dynamic head. That means the static head will increase. That's all. So now we have seen the constructional features. So in the next video, we'll see how we are going to model the centrifugal compressor, how the velocity triangles will look like, and we'll derive the energy equation, the pressure ratio equation, and so on. We'll go about for numericals at the last.